G'day, as they say in Australia, but here it's greetings. We're here today to talk a little bit about, I'm going to say, the power of mulches, the virtues of mulches. First, some things about virtues. Virtue is a positive trait or characteristic. Mulches have many virtues here. And let me talk about some of them up front here, then we'll look at specifics and talk about a methodology. I'm talking generally about mulches, and this would be good in an annual row crop system on a farm, flowers and veggies, in a garden, annuals, and also similarly but somewhat differently, I'm talking about using mulches in perennial woody shrubs and trees, orchards, roses, lilacs, things of that nature. So sometimes when I'm talking about mulch, I'm accused of, and I have to say I plead guilty, being somewhere along the spectrum between an evangelist, snake oil salesperson, or used car salesperson. I'm advocating for, but really the power of mulch is incredible in terms of what it does in the aggregate for you, the soil, and the plants. So some of the virtues, one is it protects the soil. Bare soil is bad. I'm making a value judgment there. You could say, and use an old word with Greek etymology, if you look around in natural systems the world around, with rare exceptions, I would say deserts, bare soil is not in evidence. There's some sort of plant cover or litter cover. So you could say bare soil is anathema. What does anathema mean? Again, etymology, ancient Greek, a wicked or accursed thing. You don't want the soil exposed. There's nothing good that comes from having the soil exposed. To the degree you can cover it up in one fashion or another, it's to your benefit. Easy to do on a garden scale, pretty easy to do on an orchard scale, kind of tough to do on a farm row cropping scale, nonetheless. Mulch covers the soil. Bare soil is bad, as stated previously. Even things like the UV rays of the sun and wind have a degrading effect on surface structure. Wind can also blow soil away. So you want to cover up. But what really has a big negative impact on soil, bare soil, is the pounding effect of either rain or overhead irrigation. It just absolutely destroys the surface structure and aggregation, creates a crust, then there's puddling, and then you're slip sliding away down the slippery slope of erosion. Not good. So you got to cover up. In our climate here, we have a mild Mediterranean climate on the coast of Central California. We have two alternating seasons, both mild in a relative sense. We have a mild, warm, sometimes foggy, dry summer. There's not that much concern with erosion. But we have wet, often wickedly wet, increasingly wet, and wetter still winters, atmospheric rivers and all that. And having coverage on the soil is of critical importance.
So if you're new to sustainable agriculture and agroecology, I'm just going to introduce you to our cover crop here. The cover crop is what we plant in the wintertime to cover the soil when we have all these heavy rains, and especially this year where we saw almost 60 inches of rain up here on campus, having a thick stand of cover crop was really important to protect our soil.
When you talk about mulch, there's kind of two paths. You can have a living plant canopy mulch. If you plant your beds, your rows, with either a productive vegetable or flower crop or a cover crop prior to the advent of the rainy season, you have this beautiful living mulch, the canopy. Or you can use things like I'm going to talk about here in a minute, various things as a surface mulch. Mulch protects the soil, covers the soil. No bare soil, again, it's anathema, a wicked, accursed thing, bare soil. It caps in moisture, and I will say big time. Empirically, when we started using wood chip mulches in our tree systems here at the UCSC Farm and Garden 35, 40 years ago, we pretty much very quickly were able to reduce the amount of water we had to put in by about 1/3, and that's pretty phenomenal. Mulch will also cool the soil. This can be good, this can be bad. One of the problems with mulch, organic mulches, is that in the spring it really retards soil warming, which slows down growth. And, you know, so that's a negative thing. But in the summer here, but especially in really hot interior climates, it really moderates and cools the soil. So cools the soil, good and bad. And a big thing for me with mulch is about cycling. It cycles substances, carbon, nutrients. And most of the products that you would use for mulch are either free or low cost. And let me add, free stuff is good. And you're just cycling. And particularly my favorite here, which we'll get to in a minute, wood chips. You're just diverting material that's valuable in a farm garden system, orchard system, that's going to go to landfill and kind of occupy space in a negative manner like that. And you can pretty much always get tree crews to just simply drop a load in your driveway if they're working in your area. If you work on a farm scale, it's very easy to get them to come and bring you truck and trailer loads like that, because they're saving money of landfill costs. They're not so wed to the cycling thing like we are, perhaps, but still. Another big thing about mulch, and again, more so wood chips than other types of mulch, is that it really ramps up soil biology. And it's just phenomenal. You will see the effects. It also very much improves all three of the soil's principal properties: its physical, chemical, and biological properties. When I say physical properties, I mean things like the body of the soil, its structure and aggregation, bulk density, which is a measure of the weight of a volume of soil. The lighter the soil, the lower the bulk density reading, means it has more aggregation, structure, pore space, and it weighs less. And this is to your favor in terms of being a hospitable environment, both for root growth and for the microbial community. So it improves the soil's physical properties. It improves the soil's chemical properties, because whatever the nutrients are in your various mulches, as the material breaks down, those nutrients are gently leached into the topsoil, down into the soil, down into the root zone of the growing plants like that. And eventually, and so the biological properties, like I said, it just is creating a feedstock for microbes in the soil, and anything you can do in that regard is in your favor. And eventually this stuff will break down and become kind of the thing, the quest, what you're after with organic material put into the soil: humus, a stabilized form of organic matter that is a reservoir for nutrients. And it's essentially non-leachable. So it's there, it's slowly etched out of the humus complex, both by acids and enzymes in the soil, and very much by microbes. So, hey, lastly, yeah, it's pretty. It's good stuff. So let's look at some of the candidates here. Let's talk annual systems again. An annual garden, an annual field row crop system. Let me be emphatic here. Don't use wood chips. Don't turn those wood chips into the soil. Do use materials like, this is straw, and these are simply deciduous, fallen deciduous leaves. Both are great. Okay, here's another example of how we try to always cover up, never have bare soil, and how we use various substances for our mulches. Again, in annual systems, straw and leaves here in our perennial systems, wood chips. So this is a bed that we dug a couple weeks ago with the hope of putting in some early spring onions of really spectacular variety called Texas Grano. And yep, it's from Texas, so it's real big. We had a little brief window where it wasn't raining. We dug the bed, and then we had some systems coming in. So we just went and mulched off the bed so the soil wasn't open and exposed to the elements, in this case, the rain. And these are just deciduous leaves here. And we'll leave them on until we plant. And in fact, we may even just plant through the mulch. It's not that thick here, and keep the bed covered. So we went and covered up, and you can see with a little peeling back here again, a nice soil, a beautiful soil, a black soil, a high organic matter soil. And it's been protected. We probably had 6 or 8 inches of rain in the interim time period between when we dug this bed and now. And the soil's tucked away like that. All's good. I say straw and not hay. Straw is the stems, the stalks of the hay, the oats, barley, wheats, whatever it is you're growing. The seed is in the hay bales. You don't want to seed your garden with hay, but you want to use the stubble, the straw here. It's a really great mulch. And it's just, you know, pretty much pure carbon. And breaks down pretty quickly in consideration of the fact that it has a lot of carbon in it. I apply it in the fall. It goes through the winter. When I come to work those annual flower or veg crop beds in the spring, it's not completely broken down, but it's largely broken down, and it's pretty easy simply to turn it into the soil along with your application of compost, and the rest of the carbon will be broken down relatively quickly. I want to say 3 to 5 days, 7, 10 days, something in that vein there, by the soil microbes, and you're good to go to plant. Leaves, similarly. Broadleaf, deciduous leaves are good. One problem we have in this area, Central Coast of California, mild Mediterranean climate, is we don't have a lot of hardwood, broad-leafed deciduous trees. Oaks, madrones, a few others, but not a lot. But in most areas of the world, interior continent areas, lots of leaves and a beautiful resource for you. But what I'm really here to evangelize about today are the virtues of wood chips. We use wood chips in our perennial tree and shrub systems, principally fruit trees, but also roses and lilacs and things like that. And when you look at the literature, the research about wood chips, the term that's bandied about is ramial wood chips. And ramio means round branches. And my response is, really, round branches? Are there square branches? Are there trapezoid branches? So anyhow, it's just one of those technical definitions. But branches from living trees that were chopped down and cut up, chipped up, and of hardwood deciduous trees. Again, in California, we don't have a lot of that. What we use here at UCSC Farm and Garden are what we can get for free from the tree crew on campus. And it's largely conifers, redwoods, Doug fir, a few knobcone pine, some oak and some madrone, occasionally eucalyptus. You read, don't apply this stuff as a mulch. It has a lot of tannins and acids and such, and it'll acidify the soil and all kinds of bad stuff. I'm here to say that in a limited sense, and that is again in perennial woody tree systems, as a surface mulch, not flipped into the soil, it is, I don't know, what are the river rafters, road bike racers and mountain climbers say? Beyond category. It's just crazy good. We apply it 2 times a year. And we apply it pretty thickly, 3-4 inches at each juncture. We apply it in the spring, and then when we come around to the fall, it is not obviously totally broken down, but it is more broken down than you would think it could or should be, given that it is, again, almost pure carbon. It's wood. And then we apply another round in the fall, and then we scatter sow or broadcast sow our cover crops into that, rake it in, stand back, go write have a cup of coffee, go write the great American novel, come back. And you will have a cover crop that has emerged and grown sometime late winter, early spring, and then again we drop and chop that cover crop. On a garden scale, we use a machete, chop it at the base, chop it up into finer pieces, smaller pieces on the ground, and this goes to the principle, and this applies in compost and your ingredients in compost. The finer, the smaller the particle size, the greater the surface area, the more the microbes can get on it and break it down more quickly. Additionally, plants are basically water encased in cellulose. It's a cellulose waxy covering to guard against the environment. And when you chop these green manures, cover crops up, you open up the more susceptible soft innards, and it's a better substrate for microbes to get on. So the cycle with trees: apply at planting, apply every spring, apply every fall. So a cover crop, rake it into the chips, grow it, drop it, chop it, mulch up again in the spring. And in the year 1, 2, and maybe year 3 with our fruit trees, we also apply a modicum of compost and organic certified fertilizers. But after that, if things are going well, we can really just get by with our no-till mulch system. The putting down of the mulch 2 times a year, the sowing of cover crop, the drop, chop, and mulch over again. Okay, so that's our cycle, and that's highly recommended. And this is based on 30, 40 years of experience. It's just phenomenal what it does. Let's look at the wood chips here. The lower pile here are simply wood chips, raw wood chips. This is approximately 6 months later. Again, if we're looking at the carbon content of these mulches, the straw and the leaves would be 40 to 50 to 1. Pretty carbonaceous. A high nitrogen product would be something like a fresh chicken manure, 10 to 1, or succulent greens from the garden, 15 to 1. But let's look at wood chips, 400 to 500 to 1. They are basically wood. And yet, in this system I'm talking about, and it doesn't happen instantaneously, it's not like a quick sprint jump start, but within a year, certainly 2, you start to get this almost synergistic effect where they break down quicker than you think they should or could imagine that they will. So I go from raw to decomposed. Now on the surface here, you can see it's a nice kind of broken down setup here. But what I'm really excited about is these wood chips give rise to a high fungal population and a set of critters that are neither bacteria nor fungi. They're kind of hybrids between the two. Actinomycetes, yeah, it's a mouthful. Actinomycetes, actinomycetes. And these are single cell-like bacteria, but they have hyphae extenders like fungi. And they literally eat wood. And I'm going to have us pivot with the camera here to this wooden label over here. And as I say in a court of law, Your Honor, the defense rests its case. You look on the left side of that, you see that is a wooden label we use in our beds, our tree beds and such, and that is about 18 months worth of carbon munching by actinomycetes. They just flat eat wood. Now, keep in mind, they don't have moving mouth parts. They do it with acids and enzymes. So the rate, what we're doing here with these Ramio wood chips is fostering an environment that gives rise to fungal populations and actinomycetes. And these hasten the rate of breakdown and the addition of nutrients that can be leached into the soil. But also, if you look here in this pile, you see these white mycelial strands. And they have a very positive ameliorating effect at binding and aggregating not just the mulch, but the upper layers of the surface together. They create what's called a good structure or aggregation. Also, just a little cutesy, when I was digging this up, I got a little piece of wood. Oh, look, there's actinomycetes on it, or there's some mycelial strands on it. They're chopping wood, in a metaphorical sense, as it were. Here we are in a small block of peach trees here, dormant trees, nice structure and form, about to bust loose here with beautiful pink blooms, hopefully get pollinated, set a nice crop. Hopefully we'll have a hot summer, we'll get sugar. But let's talk about the orchard floor management here over the recent history here. A couple years ago, we grew our standard cover crop in here. We got it up, we dropped and chopped it, and then as we are so zealous about this mulching system, we went and gathered greens from around the garden, and we thickened the layer of greens, and then we chipped it off. And one of the ways you can look at this system here of the chips, the cover crop, the drop chop, the mulch, is it's essentially, you're making a compost pile here, a sheet compost pile here. It's going to be a long, slow breakdown. But the addition of the green material really helps to bring out the bacterial crowd and then the fungal crowd, and helps to speed up the decomposition of the chips. In fact, I've been flirting with the idea of, hey, maybe we take one of our plots where we put chips on this next go around and we brew up some righteous compost tea and we apply it with a spray rig to just kind of inoculate the chips, see if we can get the party of microbes going real quick like that, and see if there's a quicker breakdown. At any rate, we did that, and then summer proceeded, and then about 9 months ago, we came in here with a second cover crop, dropped it and chopped it and shipped it over. So here we are in the spring, and I like doing this all around the garden. Doesn't matter what's in the bed, whether it's a mulch system or open soil. It's just kind of digging down and taking a little slice and taking a little look. It's a bit of an archaeological dig, as it were. So let's just take a look here. You see obviously the chips on top, but when you just get down a little bit, you've got a riot going on here, mycelial strand riot here. These are the mycelial strands of various fungi, some of them probably actinomycetes, very effective munchers of carbon. Again, not munchers with a mouth part, but munchers in terms of acids and enzymes. And they just rot these chips down at a rate that's rather phenomenal, considering that they're almost pure carbon. Other effects from the mycelial action here is that in their web-like nature, they help bind the soil particles together and create good structure. This soil is well aggregated. If you look here, you can see the individual particles of sand, silt, and clay have been bound together by, in this case, the mycelial strands here, and into bigger or secondary units called aggregates. And you can see some are small and some are intermediate and some are a little bigger. But having a soil that's well aggregated is kind of your goal. There are so many good things that accrue from that. So essentially, again, this is a no-till system. The soil is deeply dug prior to the planting, but after that it's just a mulch layering system. And anything you can do to lessen the amount of tillage you do in the soil helps to keep soil structure together, and you can ramp things up, as it were, by adding these ramial wood chips, and it's all good. So what's the take home? No bare soil. Cover up one way or another. Plant canopy, beautiful, lush, cushions. In the world of soil science and erosion and such, there's a formula that says every time water doubles its velocity, it squares its erosive potential. So if you work backwards against that gradient, everything you can do to slow down the speed and the impact of water, it's in your favor in terms of preventing the surface soil from becoming compacted, crusted, leading to erosion. It keeps a nice permeable open soil. So I could go on forever in my evangelical style here, or use Carter person manner. But I'll stop now, and I just want to encourage you to dive into the world of mulch. It's fascinating. So in the end, you're just kind of mulching it over.